Chapter 4. The moral of the story is every future champion is made by a future champion maker and a bad day on the track. In Tori's Toriest way, he tried to convince me to walk out with him, talking about how wouldn't nobody say nothing if he was with me, but I knew that wasn't true. Because Tori wasn't cool, at least not cool like that. He was track cool, and he wasn't tough, at least not tough like that. He was track tough. You be talking like you hoop or something, or like you play football, I said, sitting in the windowsill of the boys' bathroom. You run track. I could tell it stung Tori, but what I meant was that running ain't no contact sport. The whole point of what we do is running. Plus, our school don't even have a track team. Plus, everybody knows basketball and football teams got cheerleaders, and we ain't got cheerleaders except for our mothers. And his grandmother. Ain't nothing cool or dangerous about that. So, I wasn't leaving the bathroom. Not yet. Whatever. What you don't know is I got 8th grade strength, he boasted, flexing his biceps. Barely there. Bee stings. Anyway, you still come into practice, right? Yeah, I'll be there. Want me to tell coach you gonna be late? I won't be. I stayed in the bathroom a while after Tori left, just sitting there, checking the mirror for new hair every few minutes, only to be disappointed every few minutes when there was none. And while I was wondering where my hairs were, I was also wondering if Tori really believed me. You know about the whole I did this to run faster thing. I was also wondering if the hallways were finally clear and if the buses were finally gone so I could leave the school in peace. Because even though I had my hat on, everyone had already seen me without it, thanks to Mr. Flowers. Some of my classmates got their jokes off early, but I knew there were others who were patiently waiting, laughter loaded up, on lookout at the lockers. Once I knew they were gone, I was ghost. Martin Luther King Park sat right between the school and Glass Manor. It was like a paradise of patchy grass, wobbly bleachers, and a track that had a few potholes on the back stretch. More importantly, it was ours, home of the Defenders. By the time I showed up, the rest of the team was already there, all huddled up and chirping about the school day. Me and Tori were the only ones that went to the same school. Everybody else? Other schools, other neighborhoods, other situations. So, this pre practice time was a free pocket for us to share notes about the differences and sames, like what gross food was in each of our cafeterias, what girls liked us, which was really about what girls we liked. Our tough talk about how principals always be acting like police, like they can tell us what to do, they could tell us what to do. Coach Marvin was standing at the gate, flipping through the papers clipped to his board. On them were papers. On them papers were our races, times, goals, and who knows what else. He wasn't paying attention to nobody. At least I thought he wasn't until I walked by. Almost late, Odie. He ain't even look up, the papers reflecting in the lenses of his shades, gold chains sparkling in the sun. He always told us running was for pretty boys and that all of us should maybe try hockey, but we knew he was joking because wasn't no ice around here. Almost matters, coach, I shot back. I learned that from my dad. He happens to be Coach Marvin's best friend and also the other coach of our team. Some people call him the assistant coach, but he's not. He's just the other one, the co-coach. Coach Marvin looked up from his stats, did one of those micro laughs, the closed mouth, one breath, he's that has that come out or don't as hums. That was my cue to hustle up. We, the Defenders, are a small group of guys, a team started by Coach Marvin and my father a few years back. The goal, according to both of them, was to make a mentorship program for boys who needed something to do after school but didn't want to go camping or put on a military costume. Structure, discipline, and fun will defend against the gun, Coach Marvin always blabbed, followed by my father's go to, the best never rest. It was like they secretly wanted to be rappers but couldn't come up with no more rhymes after those, so we had to hear them on repeat. Sometimes even had to repeat it back to them, which most times sounded pretty pitiful because we were such a tiny team. By tiny I mean in numbers. We were giant in attitude. There was Paul Garvin, the fastest fat boy I've ever known. He definitely would have been a dog of football if his mom wasn't so scared of it. He runs the 400 meter and he runs it faster than Brendan Landry, who's built like a blade of grass. But don't get me wrong, Brendan can run. We call him Laundry because of his last name and also because his stride's so clean. We also call him that because he folds up at the end of every race. Arms and legs just collapse on themselves. Then there's Dennis Waldecker. He's our long distance runner and the only white boy on the squad. And the reason he's the only one of us who runs long distance is because don't nobody want to run slow for a long time. It don't even be feeling like a race. Speaking of race, Dennis ain't to be played with. He from Glass Manor. Not my building, but he lives around there, and because he don't run fast, he fights good. And DeAndre Proud, whose last name should have been his first name. Dude be proud, but only of himself. He runs the 800 and throws up after every race and still be walking around like puke ain't nasty. He says it's the weakness leaving his body. And if that's true, I don't never want to be strong or run the 800. Bernard Turner runs the 800 too. Unlike DeAndre, he cool, don't really say too much, and never pukes, which I like. I think he had to join the team. Like, had to. Like, a judge said so after he spent a few months in juvie. He also got a voice deeper than Coach Marvin's, even deeper than my dad's. And last but first, there were the sprinters. Me, Otis Jr., but everybody calls me Odie, and Tori Cunningham, who had already told everyone my bald-faced lie by the time I hit the track. Yeah, see, Odie can explain it better than me, he preached. But basically, shaving all your hair off your head and face is part of the sport. It stops something called drag and is a secret to running faster. Right, Odie? He turned to me. The other guys all staring with their mouths wide and their eyes wider as if the moon had come down from the sky and stepped into the circle. Right. It, cuts down on drag. Where you learn that? DeAndre asked, studying my face like the details of it were wrong. I thought for a moment. I couldn't say my mother because I just couldn't. I couldn't say my father either because he would have told all of us that a long time ago, being a coach and all. Plus, he was eventually going to be back and I ain't want none of them asking him. So I just said, y'all know Goose? Goose? Like our boy Goose? This from Tori. He was the only person who knew the Goose I was talking about, and I knew he was the only person who knew the Goose I was talking about. Because Goose was my other best friend, also my next door neighbor. Yep. I looked away as if Goose was going to suddenly show up and offer me some backup. You ain't tell me Goose told you that? Tori squawked. How would he know? He don't even run track. Skepticism from everybody immediately. Even though my mother said it don't always move as fast as my feet, I needed my mind to sprint a response. Because he go to private school. Plus his brother drive a sports car. I said it, then held my breath, and after a few seconds Tori started doing that nod he does when he's with it. And when he started nodding, so did DeAndre. And after DeAndre started nodding, so did Paul and Bernard and Laundry and even Dennis. And before I knew it, all them fools started touching their hair, talking about shaving it all off. Some were even pinching their eyebrows, but they still weren't all the way sold and wouldn't be until they saw me run. First, we did our toe touches and jumping jacks and hip circles and all the rest of our regular stretches. After that, we jogged our warm-up laps, just to get the heart rate up before breaking into drills. On Thursdays, we do a set of workouts coach calls everybody everything's. All this means is everybody gotta do everything regardless of what your race might be. We'd all run a mile, we'd all run the 800, we'd all run the 400, and we'd all run the 100. Coach Marvin always said this was how you understood your teammates' work, how you run in their shoes. And I do mean run because we ain't have no hurdlers, no field events either. But on Thursdays, whenever it was time for the everybody everythings, Coach Marvin always found a way to talk about recruiting newbies to cover those events. If y'all know anybody who might want to run or jump or anyone who just needs a safe place to be after school, bring them down or put me in touch with their parents because we gotta grow this thing, Coach said as we finished our warm up laps. He looked at my head, my face, really looked at it for the first time since practice started and got stuck. Paused for a few seconds as if the shine on my dome took the words out his throat, blinded his tongue for a moment. But instead of asking me about it, he just shook his head and kept going. We lose every meet just because we can't compete in every event. Some of them other teams in this league got kids to run hurdles, throw shot put, javelin. Javelin? I said. What's javelin? When you run and throw the spear, Dennis replied like a know-it-all. I don't know, something about that just don't sound right, Tori said. You calling us javelers, Dennis? No, I'm just saying that's what the event is called. It's like you. I mean, not you, but somebody. Maybe me throws the spear as far as. Coach, help me out. Just get on the line and let's get these drills in. First up, the mile. Set the pace, Dennis. Everybody grumbled. You not helping, Coach, said Dennis. He grabbed his knee and pulled it to his chest for a final stretch, jumped up and down to get loose. Here's the thing. I don't run the mile. As a matter of fact, I usually come in last place mainly because I hate it so much. All the breathing, all the arm pumping. It's like, why? But I knew the rest of the team was waiting for me to prove that my head had basically turned me into a sports car, so I ran it like I was running for my life. Wasn't no jogging, I was zooming instead to keep up with Dennis, which I never do. And afterward, we went straight into the 800, which to me might even be worse than the mile because it's basically a long sprint. And I just treated the mile like a long, long sprint, so my legs were already cooked. But I did it anyway, almost came in first too, and then it was time for the 400, which would have already been hard but was harder after these two other distances, especially at the pace I was running, but I still found the strength to push through, coming in second again. And lastly was the 100, my race. But I was dead tired, wheezing like there was a screen door opening and closing in my chest, like something inside me was whistling, yoo-hooing for somebody to come out to tell me to chill out before I pass out and crack my egg. But I couldn't, because I needed my teammates to believe that the hair was holding me back, holding us all back. So when Coach Marvin blew the whistle, I dug deep, spaghetti legs and all. Now I don't know what happened or why it happened, but halfway down the stretch, Tori pulled a laundry and tripped over his own feet. He never did that. He knew where the lumps and bumps were. Could run this stretch with his eyes closed if he had to. Plus, Tori was always too eager to try to beat me and prove he was the fastest. Sometimes he did. Most times he didn't. Nonetheless, I'm not sure why it happened. Maybe it was exhaustion from the other drills, even though there was no way he was more exhausted than me. Maybe it was just a fluke. Whatever it was, Tori stumbled, but he ain't fall. He ain't need to. That stumble was enough to slow him down, and for me, with a blink's worth of energy left, to pull ahead. Oh! Everyone howled as we crossed the finish line. Tori tripped, Laundry said, crossing the line the whole 2 seconds behind us. Yeah, but he probably tripped because of all that hair, Paul said. Tori did have a lot of hair, sideburns too, and a light mustache, and the first one on our team to have one. Plus, he got hair on his legs. And probably on his toes. Dennis, who'd come in last place, joked. I ain't got no hair on my toes, Tori shot back, less mad about the jokes than the race. But you do got hair on your legs. You the hairiest dude out there, DeAndre said. And Odie don't got none, and he was up on every race. I ain't never seen him run like that. I wanted to reply. I wanted to chime in. I wanted to brag and tell them I told them so. I wanted to beat my chest and strut around like the man. Let them know this is what a future world champion looks like. I swear I wanted to, but I didn't. Because I couldn't. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I just laid down on the track, eyes closed, world spinning, listening to my heart beat in my ear, thump, 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 hoping it wouldn't suddenly stop. Sure, it was a lie, the whole hair thing, but I made it true. I proved it. Bring it in, bring it in, Coach said, clapping and calling us to the fence. Tori came over, asked if I was okay, but I couldn't say yes or no. Just nodded and reached for his hand. And when I opened my eyes, there DeAndre was trying to pluck hair out his head with his fingertips, snatching it strand for strand until the pain got to be too much and he realized maybe this wasn't the best way to do this. And he wasn't the only one. Paul was attacking his own eyebrows, really committing. Ow, 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 shooting from the mouths of my friends like a beat or a beat down. Ow, ow, ow. Coach Marvin, confused by all the weird behavior, ended the practice by telling us about how there would be a surprise at the next one. A big one, tomorrow, Coach said. Bigger than the one we got today. He sucked his own lips into his mouth and nodded at me. I knew what he was getting at, but tried to convince myself it was more about my performance out there. Either way, he still didn't mention my new look, which I appreciated. What kind of a surprise? DeAndre asked. Yeah, what is it? Bernard bellowed. More like who? Coach said sly. Okay, so who is the surprise? I asked. And then Coach gathered us all closer like he was getting ready to drop something top secret. We're gonna have a visitor. He goes by the name of Mr. Dudley Anderson. None of us had ever heard of whoever that was, but we knew Coach would tell us. Mr. Anderson was one of the scouts who worked with Carl Lewis's parents to help get him to the Junior Olympics when he was your age. He's coming here tomorrow to see what you all got. Is Carl Lewis coming with him? Tori asked, my ears opened wide. I don't think so, Coach Marvin said. But this is bigger than Carl. This is the man who can help you become Carl, help you become a future world champion. Future world champion. That's all I had to hear. Had he not said that, all I would have heard was Carl Lewis. Because Carl freaking Lewis. I mean, me and Tori actually write 9.99 on our hands before each race. For Carl, because that was his 100-meter time in the 1984 Olympics when he won his first gold medal. 4 years ago, I had been sitting with my folks, our eyes glued to the television, waiting for something I didn't know would change my life. But my dad had been a runner and was hyping it up nonstop, telling me that as soon as I saw Carl Lewis run, I'd probably want to join a team. But I wasn't the athletic type. Couldn't catch a ball or dribble or tackle, couldn't really even throw a punch, so I never thought I'd be game for any game. And to be honest, never even really thought that much about track. But when the camera went down the line, introducing the runners, this person and that person, each looking straight on with faces focused on fastness, and then they got to Carl. I wondered why his face seemed so different. I mean, it was like he wasn't even really paying attention to the camera. He was just sitting on the ground, lacing up his shoes, chilling. comfortable. He ain't look nervous, but he ain't really look all that focused either. That made me curious. Why he not ready? I asked Dad. Oh, he's ready, Dad assured me, smirking at the screen. He cracked open a beer, took a gulp, then passed the can to me. Otis! Ma, who'd been rubbing my father's back, craned her neck to look at the both of us like we'd lost our minds. Come on, Sonia, it's his first real Olympics, Dad reasoned. Just a sip ain't gonna hurt him. My mother exhaled loudly. Just a sip, she groaned. I locked my eyes on Ma as I reached for Dad's hand, for the can, just to make sure she wasn't tricking me. After you see this, Dad said, pointing to the television, you gonna be older, because you would have witnessed a time warp and it's gonna change you. So go on, it's okay. My father ignored my hand and just tipped the can toward my mouth. I took a sip. It was cold and gross, like grass. Gross grass, the kind dogs pee on. I couldn't swallow it. I just held the fizzy pee-pee water in my mouth, staring at the television until the gun blew and the runners exploded out of the blocks and rocketed themselves down the track. And when Carl Lewis crossed the finish line way ahead of everyone else, I spat the beer out in a spray. 9.99! The announcers were going crazy. 9.99! My father screamed, wiping beer off his arm. He reached over and hugged me. Sore back and all, he squeezed the practice and hard work and excitement into me. It was like he knew, and I knew too. The very next year, my dad and Coach Marvin, who was still Uncle Marvin to me at the time, started the Defenders, but Dad wasn't coaching, too worried his back wouldn't be able to put up with all the practices and drills and standing. So he was more of the organizer and recruiter, and there was no one better to recruit first than his own kid. I was so nervous my first time on the track that it was hard for me to do anything, even run. So, to help me, Dad would put his back to the side and become the co-coach. That way he'd be close, and he still is whenever he's not away. So this is the man that was part of making Carl Lewis? I asked now. Not like Coach heard me because everyone was going on about how they'd hoped Carl would show up too. Tori going, he ain't coming. Paul going, but he might. Coach, I tapped his arm. You said this is the man who made Carl Lewis? I asked again. He got him to the next level right when he was around y'all's age, and now Mr. Anderson works for the Junior Olympics, looking for raw talent. He heard about us, wants to see if there are any real runners in this park. Coach turned to me. So all that you brought today? Show him that tomorrow and you might get a shot. I don't remember walking home. I don't remember slinking past the bus stop or down the avenue or past the corner stores and the one country store. Mr. Charles, who kind of looked a little bit like James Brown if James Brown was white, was probably standing outside in a cowboy hat, which we always thought was funny. But I don't remember seeing him. I didn't stop to look in the barber shop window across the street. Didn't gaze in the fly guys and the guys getting fly. At the big voices, talking sharp, knife words, bullet eyes, complicated handshakes. I didn't bother trying to imitate with Tori. Not today, because I didn't see the hustlers and the old folks leaning against their cars, toothpicks jutting from their mouths like deformed fangs. I didn't see the high-top fades, the half-moon parts, the neon nylon. Didn't see the soapboxers with megaphones screaming, "Crack is whack, just say no." Didn't see the food spots all named after whatever they sold, like Chicken Steak Fish, which sold chicken sandwiches, steak sandwiches, and fish sandwiches. But the best thing on that menu was soup, or the soup shop called Soup Shop, which don't eat there, or Pizza Slice, or Curry House, Jamaican, Indian, and Japanese. Didn't smell them either. I didn't even hear the neighborhood, a place with a broken volume knob. always loud, but I didn't hear no horns or mothers screaming for their kids to get out of the street or to look both ways before crossing. Or. Couldn't even hear Tori, who walked right next to me the whole time, blabbering, probably about the same thing that had me dazed. Both of us spinning, vibrating, his thoughts coming out his mouth in too many words, mine staying inside, running along with Carl Lewis's imaginary footsteps in my head. Carl Lewis, and Mr. Whatever his name was. The man who made Carl Lewis, Tori beamed, was coming to the track to visit me. Is coming to the track to visit me, Tori boomed, even though I knew he wasn't really coming to visit just me. I know he not coming just to see me. Tori slapped my arm as we reached my apartment. What's the man's name again? What's his name again? Tori gave me 5. Dudley something. Dudley Anderson. Dudley Anderson, he said, repeating it a few more times as he continued on down the block, my building door closing behind him.